Hello, my name is Catherine Harvey and I'm here to quickly discuss the bioavailability of medicinal cannabis. What's bioavailability? It's the proportion of the drug that enters the systemic circulation. So if a drug is administered by the IV route, it's 100% bioavailable. Oral bioavailability is exactly the same thing. It's simply proportion of the drug that enters the systemic circulation when the drug is taken by the oral route. Generally, not always, oral bioavailability is expressed as a percentage of IV, which is 100. Oral bioavailability can only be established in a properly conducted clinical trial, where the drug levels are measured from blood samples taken from the trial participants. And the blood levels can only be assayed using an assay that has been validated against known standards, so that you can actually rely on the results that are generated. Now, why is oral bioavailability different to IV? Simply put, it's first pass metabolism. Anything taken by the oral route is presented to the liver before it goes into the systemic circulation. So oral bioavailability is simply absorption minus first pass through the liver. What about bioavailability of medicinal cannabis products? It's exactly the same. It's the proportion of the drug, in this case, the active ingredients or the cannabinoids that are absorbed from the medicinal cannabis product. Now, why is that important? When patients are treated with medicinal cannabis, each product, each dose for each patient has to be individualized. It's really individualized medicine. So it's important then to titrate the dose to the minimum effective dose for each patient. Now, to do that, you need to be able to evaluate the patient's response at each dose level. And to be able to reliably evaluate a patient's response, you need to make sure that the patient is receiving the exact same dose every time they take a dose of product. So it's important to consider how much is absorbed at each dose. Now, when medicinal products are delivered by the inhaled route, and for cannabis that's either via a vape or via a smoking route, the bioavailability that has been reported varies widely, anything from 2 to 56%. It's hugely variable because lung volume is varied. It depends on the product that's being inhaled, the volume that's inhaled, how long it's held in the lungs. There are millions of variables, and therefore bioavailability from the inhaled route is hugely variable. So very difficult to assess one dose level from the other. In terms of medicinal cannabis delivered via an oil product or even a capsule product, the first point is there isn't a lot of research out there on medicinal cannabis products. So I've gathered the research that I can in terms of the pharmacokinetics and the absorption of cannabinoids from the oral route. First point to say is that from the oral route, generally absorption is around the 4 to 6% level, and it can be and has been measured as high as 12%. I looked for research on Sativex because Sativex is a product that has actually been registered in Australia. And I found this study that compared the absorption from a Sativex spray versus absorption from an oil product. And the findings in this study show that absorption from an oil was almost as good as the Sativex product. So reversing that conclusion, if you like, absorption from a Sativex spray was better than that from an oil, but only marginally better, and the difference wasn't statistically significant. One trial I did find was a trial of the Sativex spray used as a comparator to measure the absorption from the Satipharm capsules. If we look at the absorption from the Satipharm capsules, which is the green line, we can see that the blood levels from the Satipharm capsules are higher than the blood levels from the Sativex spray, which is the red line. You can see that absorption from the capsules started more rapidly with Sativex, but did not reach the same blood levels as with the Satipharm capsules. And if you measure the area under these curves, which is how bioavailability is calculated, you can see that 34% more of the dose was absorbed from the Cytopharm capsules. In this graph, they've set the Cytopharm capsule bioavailability against a nominal value for Sativex. So they've said that bioavailability of Sativex, in this case for this trial, is 100%, then bioavailability from a Cytopharm capsule is 134%, which simply means 34% more of the dose was absorbed. Interestingly, in this study, that difference was actually statistically significant. So as I said before, medicinal cannabis is not a one-size-fits-all medicine. Doses need to be individualised. And when switching patients either from one dose to another dose within the same product, or switching patients, if need be, from one product to another product, important to consider the bioavailability of that product so that the patient's dose response curve can be reliably evaluated. Thank you for your attention.